talking about this week?
What are we talking about this week?
Yeah.
What skills do you need as a writer?
But before we talk about that, we're going to just introduce ourselves because we always forget, don't we?
We do.
Somebody emailed us and said, you guys never introduce yourselves or say anything about the podcast. So we're trying to be very structured about that, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. So I'm Lynn Testoni. I'm a journalist and a content creator, and you are?
I'm Rachel Smith. I am a journalist and content producer and a copywriter and the founder of Rachel's List, which is a jobs board, blog and toolkit with lots of resources for lovely creative people, many of whom are listening.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. Or maybe no one is. And what is this all about? What's the Content Bite?
The Content Bite is a podcast for journos, content writers, digital writers, copywriters, basically anyone who uses their words to make money.
And people who don't.
Freelancers generally.
In general.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's get into it. What skills do you need as a content writer? I think we have to acknowledge that things have changed drastically since we became journalists, and because we're now content writers as well.
Yeah, we are.
And you really do have to, you really do have to upskill and have so many more skills than, we used to when we just wrote copy and handed it to a sub.
Exactly. Well, they're not even many subs.
I know.
But also, I think it's a great thing. It's actually nice to not be sort of pigeonholed into one thing forever. Yes. I think actually upskilling is a great thing, and I find a lot of the things we're going to discuss today I really enjoy doing, and it's brought a lot of diversity into my work. I really like that.
And a lot more work as well.
And a lot more work.
Yes.
In a good way.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting. I mean, we're seeing so many content writing and copywriting jobs coming through on Rachel's List, and a lot of them call for the same skills over and over.
Yep.
So we thought we would just do a rundown of some of the skills you might need or you might want to consider upskilling in.
Yep.
So what's a big one? Is the CMS?
CMS is the big, which stands for Content Management System, which is just basically the mechanism that content is uploaded into for websites.
So an obvious one is WordPress. If you've ever looked at WordPress or you know WordPress, that is, a CMS basically.
Yeah,
so is Wix. So is Squarespace.
Yep.
They all have their own CMS.
Umbraco I've used, which is quite commonly used by bigger companies. I've also used Gather Content.
Me too.
And you've used Skyward?
Skyward, yeah. That was for an American company where I did a lot of travel writing. And that was actually quite a different CMS to anything I've used. But I think that once you get your head around one CMS, they're all fairly similar and you can sort of hit the ground running.
Yeah. I've used about 3 or 4, and it usually takes me a couple of hours to work out, okay, with this one, this is how you do this, but the functionality is all quite similar and it's not hard once you've done one.
Yep.
I don't do a lot of CMS uploading. Often I supply content on a Word document and then a digital person uploads it, but bigger projects, when I've worked on a big website refresh or something, I might have done 30 or 40 pieces of content, then they usually want you to upload it straight into the CMS.
So I'm just going to mention before we move on to the next one is, if that is part of the brief, you have to charge accordingly because it can add quite a considerable amount of time into the project. If you're uploading into a CMS, adding in all the metadata, the keywords, especially some of the CMSs that I've used will give you a score or a rating, and you can't go further unless you hit a green light.
Oh yes, that's quite common.
So
to make sure that it's sort of search engine friendly.
Yeah, and so that can be very time consuming in itself. So always factor that into your quote if you're being asked to do the CMS work. Yeah. Okay, what's another skill that you need as a content writer?
I think it's about writing succinctly and being clear. I think particularly if you're doing anything that's digital, you've got to make sure that it's clear and you touch all those keywords and that what people are searching for. It's not the time to be incredibly flowery. or really evocative with a lot of corporate content or any sort of content, because you're relying on that sort of famous Google algorithm. Where
I think as well, you want to also make sure that you're being clear in your headlines.
yes,
So you want to think of headlines in the way of how people might type a question into Google. That's how I always think about it when I'm coming up with a headline, because that's really what you want. You want someone to type that headline into Google, and come up with your article. So it's really important to be as clear as possible. The puns, the play on words that work so well as cute cover lines in magazines or in, features doesn't work so well on digital, and not going to be found. So I think that's really important. And you also need to be able to put listicles together and, different kinds of, snappy copy that's going to appeal to a fickle reader on the web.
Yeah, somebody who's got their hand on the sort of mouse just about to click on Tony. So yeah, exactly. I think also getting au fait with photography, pick research, understanding like basic copyright too, so you just don't drag stuff off Google, which is everyone's nightmare. So if you can take photos, it's great, but finding quality stock photos, using like Unsplash is great. You've got Pexels. I've used even Shutterstock, which is a paid search. I think even Getty, which has always been quite big, is now selling images in smaller packages rather than a huge subscription. Adobe, if you use the Adobe CC Suite, they have some. Most of I know Wix has its own library. Canva.
Well, I really love Pixabay. That's a great one. But Canva is fantastic. If you use Canva, and if you have a paid Canva, it feeds in a lot of the Shutterstock images, I think. But you might pay $1 to use them. So you've got a fantastic library to choose from, and you can create, those web optimized images, which is really handy, and clients will love you if you do that.
Actually, Canva is actually something we haven't mentioned a lot, but it is actually a great skill to be au fait with Canva, which is a really basic a graphic design program, which is quite helpful too.
Well, what we see often is on Rachel's list of jobs, they'll say you have to have Photoshop. Now, I don't use Photoshop, but I know my way around Canva like, nobody's business. So I'm wondering if that's just as good in a lot of cases for clients.
I think a lot of clients now are using Canva as well, and Photoshop. I use InDesign, and a lot of all the Adobe suite have got some similarities. If you've used one, it's not that hard, and all of them have really good. Adobe has a really good education online to help you with that. Yep.
Okay, moving on. Really, really good to have best practice on social media. Know that for those, what am I trying to say?
The difference between each different social media, what might work on LinkedIn does not work on Instagram, that does not work on Twitter, different things.
I need an early night. But seriously, no, if you're going to do social for a client or you're going to offer that, obviously you need to know how to get engagement for that client.
How to do hashtag research.
What are insights? How do you find the insights for your clients' platforms, and how do you apply that to when you schedule posts? You could schedule a post, at a time where none of your clients' audience is online, and you'll just get crickets. So that sort of stuff is really, really important to just have a little bit of knowledge about that, and also very easy to research that and find that out and get that knowledge.
Metadata and keywords are a great thing to get comfortable with. Metadata is basically the data, like headlines and summaries and everything that people use to search on Google. And most CMS websites will have a metadata field that even if you don't upload direct to a CMS, I often find with my clients, if I supply them with some metadata, it helps them and it makes you look really good and really savvy. It's a good idea. And keywords, there's some basic keyword research. We actually talked a lot about this in one of our earlier episodes when we talked about great keywords, programs like I use Key Search, you use
Uber Suggest. Yeah.
And I also use Answer the Public, which is sort of
Yep.
similar along that way. Yeah.
Yep. And really want to try and get into the habit of inserting keywords in a really natural, organic way rather than stuffing the copy with as many keywords as you can because, Google hates that.
Yeah, exactly. Often I write the story anyway, and then I have a list of the keywords of the site, and then I go back after I'm finished. As part of my editing, I just sort of look and see where those keywords would fall naturally within the copy and make sure that they're mentioned, as rather than sort of just stuffing them in, as you say.
Oh my God, we're going over time, so we're just going to race through. Okay, so you also want to be a great researcher. I'm finding a lot of clients want endnotes and footnotes now. That go into the digital articles or, print even. It's really like being back at uni. And they want you to find primary sources rather than secondary. So the actual,
I supply sources with almost all my stories somehow.
Yeah. So that's really important, I think. Also, you want to be able to package up content, don't you? You want to... a lot of clients will say, well, I don't just want the words. I want you to think visually. How would this work in other formats? So you might want to think, well, would that be a great pie chart? Or maybe that would work as an infographic.
Yeah.
Or perhaps I could pull out some of the top points here and turn them into a social media series. Or maybe, it might work as a podcast episode. So a lot of clients will want you to be able to brainstorm that and think of other ways to use that content.
Yep. Slicing and dicing.
Slicing and dicing.
That's what I say, yeah.
What's the last one that we're talking about today?
Is EDM management.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Like, I think...
handing over newsletters to a freelancer, which seems to be happening
a big
more and
thing,
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do a few newsletters for some of my clients, and it's quite a lovely thing to do. I actually quite like it. I started off with MailChimp, which is probably the most common, but there's heaps of others. I've used Campaign Monitor, and I think they're all pretty simple to use and not intimidating, but you can actually get complicated if you want, but start off simple, and I think they're a really good way to get comfortable.
Yeah, this is it. You could be just doing a basic newsletter where they give you the copy and you edit it into a template, or you could be creating the templates and adding the image, the optimized images. You could be adding a logo in. You could be having to do automations for their audience and send their audience into different kind of lists or tracks according to what they click on. So all of that is really it's easy to do. It just takes practice and it takes time to learn.
I know MailChimp particularly sends you email. If you have a MailChimp account, they send you an email once a week with tips and tricks, which are really handy. So showing you all those things like automating things, and that's quite handy.
I have to say though, MailChimp is so much easier once you start using something like ActiveCampaign, which basically messes with your head and you just want to go back to MailChimp. So stick with MailChimp. Oh my God, we're really way over time. We've got to go. But you have been listening to Rachel and Lynn
on The Content Bite. So find us on Facebook or email us at thecontentbite@gmail.com.
That's us.
See you next week.
Bye.